All right, everyone. Puerto Rico has had a lot of problems for quite some time. It's a systemically corrupt state government. Because it's not a U.S. state, because it's just a territory, they get away with more. And so the state government there has managed to run the what would be either a state or an independent nation into a huge amount of debt. It's a lot of crime, a lot of corruption. And now we have more corruption. Now, the governor is, of course, a Democrat. In fact, a far-left Democrat, specifically a progressive, named Ricardo Rossello. He'd be like an AOC, politically speaking, like in his fiscal views and so forth. A welfare state liberal, a far leftist. And he's in a little bit of trouble. Half of Puerto Rico, I guess, has poured out into the streets to protest and demand his removal. He's saying that he's not going to step down. He's been called on to step down by every Democratic candidate, as far as I know, which, by the way, is to their credit. Because they could circle wagons and say, no, I stand with him. At least he's a progressive or something. And it's like he'll be replaced by another far-left Democrat. It's Puerto Rico, after all. But what happened is, I guess he and his staff were communicating by Telegram, one of these apps that I don't use because I'm not part of the app generation. I like my computer to be a computer. I don't want it to be a phone. And I want my phone to do phone stuff. Namely, if I need to make an emergency call, that's fine. Otherwise, it's basically just a mobile recording platform for me. That's how I make my garden videos and shit. That's basically what my smartphone is. It's an expensive mobile camera. And I like it that way. Fuck text messaging. The one time in my life for a few months that I had a phone that was like, sort of unlimited plan, I ended up texting a lot, and it was fucking miserable, and people kept fucking bothering me in the middle of the night. You turn your phone off, you have 10,000 texts in the morning asking, where are you? Oh, are you okay? Did you turn your phone off? Fuck you! Yes, I turned my phone off. It's called sleep. You should try it sometime. You'd be a lot more happy. So I try not to even keep my phone on me when possible. Anyway, he was, bantering with his staff and saying like weird shit, like insulting the people of his own state, territory of Puerto Rico. Making threatening comments towards the mayor of San Juan. Now that's a very interesting, because the mayor of San Juan is also far left. I guess the idea was that she was making a mockery of Puerto Rican politics or something. Like she was giving Trump fodder, because what happened is, remember when the aid, after the hurricane there that knocked out half the island's power supply, when aid was sent by the federal government, Carmen, what's her name? I can't remember her full name. The mayor of San Juan was doing like the orange man badge shtick and saying, well, Trump isn't helping enough, Trump isn't sending enough aid. And then we comes to find out there's plenty of aid sent. It just was sitting in fucking warehouses because it wasn't being redistributed, and she got investigated for that. Why is she still even in that position? She should be in a jail cell. Who else commanded it not to be distributed? But it's Puerto Rico. It's not a full-on state, so there aren't as many controls in position to make sure stuff like that doesn't happen, I guess. But he was saying weird shit there. He was using a certain term that Eminem used to love using until the modern era. Now he would be called a far-right Nazi if he did, I suppose. You know the word I'm talking about. The one that refers to a bundle of sticks and is usually used as a non-homophobic insult, but, people assume that you're a homophobe if you say it, so nobody dares to anymore. It's very interesting. But he was using bad language according to Democratic standards. So whenever I'm remarking on this, remember, whenever you remark on this, make sure to point out this is a far-left, specifically progressive Democrat. This is an AOC Democrat in Puerto Rico. People need to know that, because if you read most of the lamestream news stories, what's the one thing that they omit? They don't say his political party. If he were a Republican, don't you think they would say, noted Republican Ricardo Rossello, evil orange man, dictator lackey or something like that? But he's a progressive Democrat, so they don't mention that to you. And then on Fox, that's all they do mention. Oh, by the way, this Democrat did Democrat things. Haha, isn't he hateful? Dems are real racist. It's hilarious. But, yeah, hopefully they force him out of office. Is there any particular mechanism in Puerto Rico? I don't know about their local politics as much because they're not a full-on state. Is there any recall mechanism for the governor there? Because the protests are enormous down there. I mean, looking at the weird shit he's saying, it's clear he can't govern. You can't. There's no way for you to be able to govern at that point. Is his term up in the 2020 election? I guess you have a lame duck governor for the next year then. That's kind of unfortunate. He should just step down and let whoever the hell else is there is his lieutenant governor or whatever they have there take over. You can't govern when nobody likes you. You know, the far left progressives in the House will eventually realize this too, and most of them will probably get kicked out in 2020. I would expect if they get challenged, not by the Republicans, but primaried within their own parties, yeah, they'll get knocked off their pedestal. They'll get kicked back out. Best thing for the Democrats really is if that happens, because otherwise the Republicans might end up winning far blue districts that otherwise they'd never have a chance in. That would be really funny. They end up with a district in New York. They end up with a representative from the St. Paul area of Minnesota, knock off Elon Omar, or is it Omar or Tlaib that's the Minnesotan? Which one's the Michiganer? I don't know. I guess you call it Michiganers. Mishies? I don't know. I know for some reason Hoosier is a word and doesn't make any sense to me. But remember, this is a progressive Democrat. Don't let them live it down. Make sure everybody knows that this is a far-left Democrat, because I guarantee, if you just say, hey, a governor just got outed as having used homophobic language and threatening like fellow politicians and leak chats. Haha, Republicans being Republican. You know that they would assume that. And so if they're reading these news, if they're going to the CNN article, they're not seeing that this is a Democrat. The inference should be that it's obviously is, since it's Puerto Rico. It's a far blue sort of area. By the way, we really need to solve the colonial question there. Some people on the right, it's funny, they're like, well, if Puerto Rico becomes a state, we have to deal with a bunch of people moving into the United States. They already can. It's got free movement. It's a territory. Oh, well, we have to deal with billions in debt. It's a drop in the bucket, number one. And number two, if you erased that, if you properly developed Puerto Rico, it's like under the auspices of being finally a state instead of a territory that can make its own shitty rules up with more latitude, it would be not only solvent, it would be a huge net benefit to the U.S. population. Can you imagine the tourism? Look at all the shoreline that they have in Puerto Rico, dude. The tourism alone would make it worth it. It'd pay itself off very, very quickly. Plus, the alternative, though, is, of course, if they hold a referendum, they might vote to become their own independent nation. Let them then. Let them become sovereign if they really want to. The only thing that Rossello is supposedly centrist on is he wants to keep up the colonial situation where they remain a territory. He's not one of the leftists there that wants admission or sovereignty. It's funny because people on the right there appear to be more receptive to becoming a state. They appear to want to become a state, I guess, for full representation or something. That the far left seems to want to secede from the United States. Yeah, if they want to become Che Guevara the island, then fucking let them become Che Guevara the island. Make it clear they still owe a lot of money, though, including to the federal government by the tens of billions. So it'll be interesting to see that get paid off without any foreign investment. Probably they'd end up in the Russian bloc. That's probably why they don't want to hold a final vote. They're afraid that that'll be the result. And they're like, well, Monroe Doctrine. It'd be really funny. But yeah, you've got a far left Democrat who's like saying this weird shit. It's like, So sometimes, bear with me here. I know that this is a shock to some people. Sometimes people who say that they're progressive or liberal or whatever are a bunch of fucking opportunistic hypocrites. You know, AOC, Kamala Harris, some of these other fucking losers and morons. That's about all. Peace out.